Welcome. Hello. Here we are. We are in the Healthy Relationships Sisterhood Facebook group, and I'm so happy to be here with you. Today, we are talking about how to manage difficult emotions when conflict arises, difficult or big emotions. And most people probably have noticed that you feel big emotions when you're in conflict with somebody. So we're going to look at the what the problem is, the why it's there, what kind of the science around that, and the how to manage better. The big issue that I've experienced, and I bet you have too, is that when you're in conflict, you feel a lot of big energy in your body and you find it really difficult to have a healthy conversation because, excuse me, tempers are rising. You feel, upset in some way. You're having a whole slew of different emotions. And it's very hard to have a conscious, thoughtful conversation when that's happening in your body. So raise your hand if that's true for you, if you've noticed that, and let me know in the comments. So that's that we could call the big problem, is that it's very hard to have a healthy, conscious conversation when you're in conflict with somebody. And I want to talk a little bit about the what of the problem, the kind of the source of that problem. So if you were here with me last week, we were talking about developmental trauma, and so that can be the same thing here when you're getting, like, if you're triggered, which is, I have to say, I'm teaching to this topic this week because when I look through the comments that I get from people, it's one of the main issues that women tell me they have when they come to this Facebook group. When I ask you what are your biggest challenges, you say, I don't know how to stop getting triggered with my partner. I'm afraid of conflict, or my partner gets triggered and I don't know how to be with him or her in that. And so I wanted to address that here. So your trigger may be from many different sources. It could come from, a belief that you're having, like your partner says something and then you think you're having a reaction like, well, it sounds like they don't respect me, or it sounds like they don't trust me. It sounds like, they're not telling the truth. So you might have certain reactions based on your history with this person, or you might have certain reactions based on your past, right? It could have nothing to do with what's actually happening in the relationship. Like something so simple as somebody saying, hey, did you remember to pick up, the carrots at the market? And you're having a big reaction. Why would you ask me that? Of course I did. Maybe because those deeper beliefs are at play, because you've been accused of doing wrong, because you've been accused of not following through. And even though that's not happening now, it could be kind of the belief that you're running. You don't believe me, you don't trust me, you don't respect me, that type of thing. So again, if that's ringing a bell for you, go ahead and let me know in the comments, or if you want to add to anything I'm saying. I'd love to hear like your own personal experience. So our current issues, our past issues can be part of, why we're getting so triggered. And of course, other reasons could be at play. If your partner really is, maybe they're really triggered. Maybe they're just really overreacting or reacting super strongly to something, or having their own stuff, like from their work day, they come home and they're just in a mood, or, something else happened emotionally in their family life, and it's showing up in your relationship. It's easy to have a strong reaction when your partner's having a strong reaction, because it's kind of scary. So big emotions, when we're around them, can feel scary to us in our body. Haley, that resonates. Thanks for letting me know. Yes. Yeah. And because when we were kids, emotion, our parents, our caregivers, emotions and energy was so big to us because they're big people and we're little people, and they're powerful and we're not powerful. And they're, when they get really emotional, it can be scary. And of course, they can hurt us with their emotions. So if we grew up in an environment where there was a lot of big emotions running and a lot of reactivity or, hurt being done through emotion, it would be super normal and understandable if that was still happening with you now, because you kind of got wired, you organized your nervous system in that kind of environment. So I think most of us are pretty susceptible to big emotions around us, and it jangling us in a way, like our nervous system goes, I don't know how to manage this when we're around it. It's very uncomfortable physically, let alone emotionally. So, so I want to say more about that. So, when you're in conflict, and I've talked about maybe different reasons that might come up, um, or you're around big emotions, there's many different emotions that we can experience. But in the work that I do, I like to kind of narrow it down to the three kind of most challenging emotions, and what I would like to call the core emotions, which would be anger, sadness, and fear. And so you want to start noticing for yourself what those feel like inside of you. So you have a sense for, what am I feeling? And it could be hard to determine because you could be having all three at the same time. And that's normal too. But with any of those, especially the anger and the fear, it's really likely, and when you're in a conflict type of situation, it would be really likely that you would have hormones rushing through your system at the same time. And the main hormones you would be having would be cortisol and adrenaline. Especially adrenaline is kind of fast acting. So that's that, quick rush that you get, like a high. It gets you on alert and on edge. And so that would be really normal to feel if you're having, a conflict situation with somebody. So you want to start. Let me say more about that actually before I get to the how. This is kind of what I'm saying is like the why of why this is happening, why it's so difficult to have a healthy conversation when all that's happening. And the reason is because when you've got these strong hormones in your body, like adrenaline is considered the most addictive substance that there is, more addictive chemically than PCP, than cocaine, than heroin. It's super addictive because you just need this infinitesimal amount to, to kind of have a big reaction and to kind of feel like you need more to keep going. So there are, you probably know the term adrenaline junkies. There are people kind of hooked on adrenaline where they like, I need more to keep going, right? And they use coffee to help them stimulate their adrenals so they can keep going. It's very artificial. And the problem with that is it doesn't allow you, to recover. You're not running on natural energy. You're running kind of on this artificial energy, and it can deplete you over time. So we don't want to get addicted to our own adrenaline, even though it's easy to do. So you want to start noticing if that's your habit, to kind of run on empty, to kind of feel like you have to go faster, do more, get a lot accomplished in a short period of time, and you're always rushing around. You're probably calling on a lot of adrenaline and taxing your adrenal glands. But the other issue, as far as what we're talking about today, is that when you have a hit of adrenaline, maybe it's not because you're a junkie, but because, your partner just started yelling, or, something dropped and you're like, oh no, and this is bad. And, you get a hit of adrenaline, adrenaline kicks you into survival mode. So adrenaline is responsible for the fight flight response. And so those are your key survival mechanisms. When you need to fight, and that's when you're in conflict, you're raising your voices, you're staying in the situation, your energy is kind of moving up and out of you and forward out of you. That's the fight response. And adrenaline is strong in that moment. And the flight or flee, as I like to call it, is the opposite, when you feel like you can't stay and it's too much and you need to leave. So, but both of those are run by adrenaline. And they're, like I say, they're survival mechanisms. And the thing is, when you get that and your body says, oh, this is a matter of life and death, right? Survival, it's kind of what's happening inside yourself, that it's not time for consciously kind of working out a problem, because your body's into like fight or flight. So it's literally shifting your energy. It's literally sending blood to the biggest muscles of your body, your legs in particular, legs and arms, so you can fight or run. So it's like it's pulling energy or fuel out of your brain and into your body to protect you in that moment. And that's why your cognitive mind, your why am I forgetting the name of that part of your brain? But some of you can help me out. I'm sure it's probably because I'm a little adrenalinized by being on camera, maybe. Anyway, your cortex, I can't remember it. Anyway, that part of your brain, your conscious mind, is not online so much. It's in the background because your amygdala, your fear part of your brain, is the one hyper activated right now. And your body, your adrenaline is running through your blood system, and you're like, I got to do something. So you're not going to be your best, most mature, thoughtful self in that moment. So this is the main issue. When you're in conflict, you're overrun by hormones and big emotions, is that you're not going to have the most cognitive, well thought out conversation with your partner or your kid or whatever. So I wanted to bring that up just so you can get a basic understanding, and definitely let me know if you want to add anything or you have any questions, and I'll just keep checking the comment box. And if you're watching after the live video and you want to leave a comment later, I will definitely come back and respond. So let's talk a little bit now about then what to do about this, because sometimes, as I was sharing with the group last night, you can think of yourself as having two main responses here. One might be like, this is way too much. I can't handle it. I need to take a break. It's just going to escalate if I try to have a conversation here. And so one option might be, I choose to remove myself. Maybe ideally you would, instead of storming out of the room or saying something hurtful while you leave, you might say, you know what? I'm too disturbed right now. I'm too upset. I'm too excited or stimulated in my system. I can't think. I want to have a good conversation with you, and I know I can't do that right now. And I want to remove myself and calm myself down and then come back to it later. And that is totally reasonable if you want to do that and you are totally willing to come back and kind of regroup. So that's kind of a flee out of the situation, but in a thoughtful way, in a considerate way. The second option would be to stay, right? And to do your best to shift your energy so that you can stay with the situation and work to kind of, find a solution together. So that's what I want to speak to next, is like what you might do to help you be able to move forward in the conflict. Because conflict's not bad. We have conflict when we just don't agree. We don't see things the same way. We can't always see things the same way, right? We're not going to always agree with everybody. Even the person we've chosen to marry and spend the rest of our lives with, we have different perspectives. And so it's not a bad sign if you have conflict or especially disagreement. It's not great. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good for sure, but it can be worked with, especially if you have some tools to help you manage it. So I want to share a little bit about that, and then we just have a few minutes. So just to kind of an introduction to that. So the first thing I would recommend is that you get a sense for, well, what is happening within me, so that I can be more mindful of my own self first. And I've talked about this maybe in last week's live, where we're having healthy communication really starts with yourself. It's about like what's happening in here so that I can bring that forward into the conversation. So what's happening here might be as tuning into your body and noticing what are the sensations am I having right now? Is my heart pounding? Are my hands sweating? Is my breath fast? Those are all, by the way, signs of adrenaline coursing through your blood. So you just want to notice, and you don't want to add any judgment to that. Oh, I shouldn't be, hyper. I shouldn't be activated. I shouldn't be upset. It's fine if you're upset. It's normal. But just start to notice what that feels like and what your particular version of that is, because once you get like, oh, I've got like adrenaline in my body, then you can remember, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to be the words that come out are probably not going to come out as I would like, because this adrenaline is like it's taking blood or out of my brain, even though not literally, but it's going to make it difficult for me to think clearly and converse thoughtfully. So once you recognize signs of adrenaline in your body, you can, go, oh, I think I might need a pause here so I can kind of put my brain back online and balance out my system so I can start thinking clearly again and consider how I want to handle the situation. And we're not talking about an emergency, obviously, because there are like, those, horn honking moments where you're like, I'm getting an accident, and that's an adrenaline moment. But that's really fight or flight survival moment where you really have to act fast. And that's what adrenaline's for. Acting fast, swerving that car, getting out of harm's way, grabbing your kid out of the street. That's what adrenaline's great for. But you just don't want to have it going all day long. And every time you get into a conflict, big energy, so that you're never like able to really, get grounded and be considerate in your conversations. So when you've got that hit of adrenaline and you want to stay present with somebody, you want to work it out, then you need to shift out of adrenaline dominance so you can. So you've noticed the adrenaline, you're pausing to recognize, okay, I need to do something. And then there's a few things I'm going to offer up today. I have a lot more that I share in my upcoming course, but here's a little bit to start you off, and you can see like what works for you, because not everyone responds the same way. So that's one thing, is just like the pause and the deep breath. And a few deep breaths would be ideal, where you just kind of exhale and kind of ground down into your legs and feet, so the biggest bones and muscles in your body. So right now you can do that, whether you're sitting or standing. It's just kind of imagine energy flowing down as you exhale, and feel that your butt's on the chair or your feet are on the floor, or both. Feel that your legs are holding you up if you're standing. And as you do that, you might notice, okay, I'm actually more in my body than I was before. Before I was kind of like out forward in my eyes. I was like trying to figure out what to do, right? When we're in adrenaline, it's like, where do I go? What do I do? How do I escape? How do I stay safe? And we're all out and forward. So we're not backing inside ourselves. So these moves are to bring you back home to yourself. So again, you can be like, what are my options here? Let me consider. So another thing that I like to do is a little bit of movement. And as I do that, it's kind of a slow wiggle side to side. I'm sitting, and as I do that, I'm not trying to take a deep breath, but the deep breath happens naturally. And that's so great if that happens for you, because then you are actually starting to counteract the adrenaline in your system. That moment of like you get a hug and you're like, that's oxytocin coming into your system. That's your body releasing oxytocin into your bloodstream. It's very calming, it's very soothing and nurturing. And so that's kind of what's happening here as you move your body. It could be oxytocin, it could be dopamine that come in and just kind of balance out the intensity of the adrenaline. So the movement, you could give yourself a hug, right? Maybe you don't want to hug the person that you're in conflict with, excuse me, but you could hug yourself. Just feel the touch of your hands on your shoulders, your arms. Maybe you could wrap all the way around. And again, the breath is just, I'm not trying to deep breathe, but it just happens, right? So again, that's such a great sign that you're soothing yourself. So that's a few things I wanted to offer. So you've got, just take a few deep breaths. You've got move your body a little bit. You've got touch or hug yourself, right? And before all that is even that moment of pausing, like, wow, what's going on in my body right now? Am I full of adrenaline? Because if I am, I'm probably not going to have I might regret, what I say. So then, if you're full of adrenaline, it's time to pause and do something to manage and balance your system. So then once you've done that, if you feel like more present, more able to converse, then you might move forward and ask for, hey, can we talk about this? Or, or you might say, hey, I need another moment. I need to calm myself down. And you might do some more. Right. So give it a try. Those are lots of things. I don't want to overload you today. But please let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking in the comment section, not seeing any more right now. I know several of you are here. Say hello if you're here. If you don't have any questions, that's okay too. Let me know if you had any response to those things. So if you're watching and you tried the hug, or you tried some movement, what happened for you? So I'm just going to hang out another minute or two. I see more people are coming on. And let me know what you noticed. The long exhale, very calming to your system. So thanks, you guys, for being here. I hope you found that helpful. I am going to leave a link with the video for my upcoming course. So there is this communication course. Some of you were interested in that. I decided to put it on hold a little bit, partly because I'm about to take a training in trauma and another type of trauma training, and I think it would be so awesome if I taught this course after that. I'll have more to give you. But I will be covering this, what we're talking about today, way more in depth. I'm going to give you discrete practices you can do. We're going to talk more about how to deal with conflict and difficult emotions, as well as how to communicate skillfully so that you can get your point across. You can speak in a way where you won't be argued with. You will be heard in the way you really crave to be heard and understood. You're going to find tools for how to avoid misunderstandings and to calm down those triggers and to deal with your partner's triggers, to avoid your own, to avoid defensiveness, your own defensive responses. So there's going to be a ton in that course coming up, but I'm going to just give you a taster now, and hopefully you can start applying that. So when you come to the course, you'll be ready to up level it. So I'm seeing, thanks Rachel, glad that you like those suggestions. And if anyone else wants to say anything, let me know. I'm here, and otherwise I'm going to sign off. Okay, so my website, just so you have it, is that's not it. That's the name of the group, Healthy Relationship Sisterhood. That's where, if you're live with me, that's where we are today in the Facebook group. And if you're not there with me today, come on over. I'm doing these lives every week. My website is called Conscious Thriving Relationships, and if you go to /home, Conscious Thriving Relationships /home, you will get the option to sign up for the free guide full of great tips for how to deal with difficult situations in your relationships. There's just 3 main tips I share there. It's called the Guide to the 3 Biggest Relationship Mistakes. So definitely check that out. And you can see on my homepage at consciousthrivingrelationships.com, there's a link towards the bottom to sign up for the communication course list, so you will get notified I'll be offering a discount to those on that list only the first 24 hours. So you want to get on that list to get that notification. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you next week. Take care.